He walked out. That is what we're being told. The person taken into custody the same night Khapri Alston was shot dead outside that cigar lounge in Dolton. The person the family publicly warned had political ties and money and businesses. That person allegedly walked back out without a single charge filed against him. No murder charge. No weapons charge. Nothing. And here is what makes that even harder to sit with. No mainstream Chicago news outlet has published a follow-up story. Not ABC7. Not Fox 32. Not CBS Chicago. A former professional athlete, a father of two, shot dead in public with witnesses present and a suspect apprehended the same night. And 1 week later, the local press has gone completely quiet. No update. No statement from prosecutors. No named suspect. Nothing. In journalism, there's a phrase for when powerful institutions stop talking about something. They call it moving on. The family of Khapri Alston has a different phrase for it. They called it before it happened. They stood outside the medical examiner's office and said, "We are afraid this gets swept under the rug." And right now, from everything we can see, the rug is moving. But here's what the family could not have fully known when they made that warning. What we found when we started pulling on the threads of Dolton, Illinois, the actual documented history of that village, the FBI raids, the subpoenas, the missing millions, changes the entire frame of the story. Because what we are looking at now is not just one case where justice may be failing one family. We are looking at a system that has already shown the world exactly what it is capable of. And it did not even bother to hide it. Stay with us tonight. This is the part of the story that the family feared most. And it is only just beginning to surface. If this is your first time on Mystora Crimes, subscribe right now. Hit that bell, like this video. Because the only reason cases like this stay alive is because people like you refuse to let them go quiet. This family is fighting. The least we can do is watch. To understand why the family's fear carries so much weight, you need to understand the ground Dolton, Illinois is actually built on. Because this is not a village with a clean record that simply failed in one case. This is a village that has already shown the world, in documented and reported detail, exactly how power operates when it decides the rules do not apply to it. Until recently, Dolton was run by a woman named Tiffany Henyard. She called herself the super mayor. She held not one but two positions simultaneously, mayor of Dolton and supervisor of Thornton Township, which gave her an extraordinary concentration of power in a small community, and she used it. FBI agents showed up at Dolton Village Hall and issued subpoenas as part of a corruption investigation tied directly to her administration. A financial probe revealed that the village's bank account went from a $5.6 million surplus to a $3.6 million deficit under her watch. Public funds were reportedly used to cover her personal hair and makeup team, lavish trips, vehicles the village stopped paying for, while the bank sent warning letters that were simply ignored. Her top aide was charged with bankruptcy fraud and making false statements. Residents accused her of silencing a sexual assault victim who spoke out about an incident involving one of her allies. She was eventually voted out of office, lost a court case over unpaid rent, and was later ordered to appear in court for failing to hand over public records from her time in office. She has since relocated to Georgia and is running for a political office there as a Republican. She was never charged. Let that detail sit alongside everything else for a moment. The FBI came. The subpoenas were issued. The financial evidence was documented. The aide was charged. And the person at the center of all of it walked away clean. Sound familiar? This is the environment the Alston family is asking to investigate a murder fairly. This is the institutional culture surrounding the case of their son. And when they said they were afraid of political interference, they were not guessing about what this place is capable of. They were describing what this place has already done, openly, on the record, in front of everyone. Now let's talk about what the silence actually means. Because in a case like this, silence is not neutral. Silence is a choice made by people with the power to speak. It has been over a week since Khapri Alston was killed. The local outlets that initially covered the story have published nothing new. No charges announced. No suspect named publicly. No statement from the Cook County State's Attorney's Office about the status of the case. And if the tip we received is accurate, that the person taken into custody has since been released without charges, then what we are watching in real time is a case being quietly walked back before it ever reaches a prosecutor's desk. Think about the psychology of how this works. It does not happen loudly. Nobody announces that a murder investigation is being buried. What happens is much quieter and much more deliberate than that. Witnesses suddenly become reluctant to give formal statements. Evidence review takes longer than expected. Prosecutors say they need more from investigators before they can file. Investigators say the case needs more from prosecutors before they can move. And in that loop, in that back and forth, weeks become months and months become a cold case, and a cold case becomes exactly what Pastor Khapri Alston stood outside that building and said he was afraid of: a number on a file, filed away, forgotten. There's also something deeply significant about the media silence here. Local investigative journalism is one of the few forces that can break that loop. When reporters keep calling, when cameras keep showing up, when editors keep assigning follow-up stories, that is what forces hands. But when the cameras move on, when the next story comes along, and this one slides down the homepage, the pressure disappears. And the people who were counting on that pressure to protect them are left alone with a system that has already demonstrated it does not feel particularly accountable to anyone. The family knows this, which is why they spoke before anyone had a chance to look away. But public statements have a shelf life, and that shelf life is running out. So here's where we land. And I want you to think about this carefully, because this is where the case stops being about Dolton specifically and starts being about something much bigger. What we're looking at in the Khapri Alston case is a collision between three things that should never occupy the same space at the same time: a family with the truth, a system with the power to ignore it, and a documented history of that system doing exactly that. The former mayor of the village where this happened was investigated by the FBI, watched her aide get charged, presided over millions of dollars disappearing from public accounts, was accused of using her office to protect people who should have been held accountable, and never faced a single criminal charge herself. She just left, moved to another state, started over, is currently running for office again. If that is what accountability looks like in Dolton for someone who was investigated by the federal government, what does it look like for a murder case being handled by local police with no federal involvement, no independent oversight, and a suspect who allegedly has the exact kind of political and financial connections that have historically made this village operate the way it does? And here's the question that I think gets to the deepest part of this. The family of Khapri Alston did everything right. They went public immediately. They named the threat before it materialized. They gave interviews. They stood in front of cameras. They created a record. And if the tip we received reflects what actually happened, if that person was released without charges, then doing everything right was not enough. The system absorbed the pressure and released it without consequence. What does that tell the next family? The one watching this case from the outside, whose loved one is sitting in a hospital somewhere, who is deciding right now whether going public will make a difference or whether it will cost them something without changing anything. What does it tell Khapri Alston's children when they are old enough to understand what happened? That their father's life ended in a public place with witnesses and a suspect in custody, and the machine just quietly, efficiently, invisibly decided that none of that was enough? I want to hear from you. Especially if you are from this area. Especially if you have watched cases like this disappear before. Tell me in the comments what you believe is happening in Dolton right now. Tell me whether you think a murder charge eventually comes in this case. Tell me what you believe it would take, what specific thing would have to happen for justice to actually arrive for this family. And if you believe this story deserves more than silence, share this video right now. Because the family of Khapri Alston predicted every single thing we are watching unfold. And the only thing standing between their son's case and a forgotten file is noise. Loud, sustained, unignorable noise. Subscribe to Mystora Crimes. This is exactly where secrets and justice and humanity collide. And we are not going quiet.